One thing that I looked into while playing Final Fantasy XIV was how far ahead are the hardcore players versus a casual solo player. I'm a casual solo player, but for all casual and or solo players, how far are the hardcore players away from us? And turns out, not very far. The gear gap in Final Fantasy XIV is very minimal. At best, very minimal. I have yet to inspect somebody running around with 550 item level gear. That's not going to happen. Why? Because currently the hardest, the Savage mode, I believe, Eden's Promise, which you're seeing in the background right now being played in normal mode, this Savage mode raid drops 530 item level gear. Now, of course, a Savage mode runner will be able to get a full set of 530 item level gear. Yes, that is a gap between somebody who's running normal mode content and getting 510 gear and even 520 gear. But what's really interesting is the sheer fact that we could get 520 item level gear by doing normal content, by saving the new currency, the new tokens that they have out now. Now, we're capped at 450 per week, but if you save, you can get a piece of armor, a chest piece, leg piece, whatever. But accessories is only like 370, so you can get a piece of 520 gear in your accessory slot and legitimately fill up your whole accessory slot with 520 item level gear. Later on down the line, we'll be able to augment 520 gear to 530, pretty much closing that 10-point gap that Savage Mode Raiders have on us now. I honestly appreciate that Final Fantasy XIV doesn't have a huge gear gap. Like, there's not someone running around with gear I've never seen before shitting on other players. If you go on Terra, the gear gap over there is wild, and it has destroyed that community. You got people running around in best in slot, looking down on everybody else, not willing to help, people just being dicks to each other. And I'm glad that Final Fantasy XIV didn't go that way. They don't have a huge gear gap between casuals and hardcore raiders. And I know hardcore raiders probably don't like that, but it's like they are rewarded for doing the hardest content in the game, but it doesn't put them at, it doesn't put like regular players at a disadvantage. We'll do slightly less damage up until we finally catch up in item level, but it's not a wide gap. Like I say, I haven't seen anybody running around in 550 item level gear. I just haven't, just basically destroying bosses. You know what I mean? I haven't seen it, and you're not going to see it in Final Fantasy XIV. And I appreciate that. I like that. Some people who play games like Black Desert and fucking Terra, where they have an RNG system and enchantment system, be like, oh well, they hand you your gear, everything's easy over there, and it's not. Savage mode, Unreal Dungeons, that shit's not easy at all on Final Fantasy XIV. It's worse. Even normal mode dungeons, normal mode raids in Final Fantasy XIV are harder than most of the hardest content in Terra. Okay? And I'm like, you're watching gameplay in the background of it. This is normal mode. Half the players who play Terra would get in here and die instantly to the first AoE immediately, or probably fall off the fucking map. But I appreciate the fact that Final Fantasy XIV didn't go that route where they could have put like an enchantment system and an RNG system when it comes to your gear, and then create that gear gap, because that gear gap will destroy a community inside and out. I've watched it do it. There's no going back from it. There's no coming back from it unless you put everybody on equal footing. But why would you do that? The game's set up a certain way. Different MMOs are set up different ways, so I guess it is what it is, But yeah, I mean, to those of you guys looking to come to Final Fantasy XIV, you ain't got to worry about, being blown away or shitted on by, hardcore players, because the gear gap isn't as large as you think it is. It's very minimal.